Hello, and welcome to episode 61, How to Optimize Your Digital Marketing Efforts in a Pandemic.
Welcome to the PR Playbook Podcast, the only podcast giving you actionable skills and advice you need to execute a strategic PR program. Warning: what you hear next may lead to brand awareness and increased sales and customer exposure. Now here's your host, Rinjini Joshua.
Hello, and welcome to episode 61, How to Optimize Your Digital Marketing Efforts in a Pandemic. Today, we're going to address the topic of digital marketing. First, I think it bodes me saying that the Silver Telegram is not a digital marketing agency, and we do work with partners. So PR and digital marketing are not the same thing, needless to say. Well, maybe it is needed to say, nor can they really replace each other. So I would call them like siblings or cousins, along with social media and, all kind of required, but a little bit different and nuanced. So they all have their unique spaces, but also work together and feed off of each other, which is why I think this conversation is important. So today we've invited Kerry Guard, the COO of MKG Marketing, a digital marketing agency that gets tech and healthcare brands found online through transparent, measurable digital marketing. So Kerry is also the host of MKG Marketing Podcast, and I'm sure you guys can get lots of awesome tips there. So after you're done listening to this podcast, check out Kerry over there. Hi, Kerry. Thank you for joining me on the PR Playbook Podcast.
Thank you for having me, Virginia. It's so nice to meet you.
Yeah, it's great to meet you. And I'm glad to talk about this topic. I like to talk about topics that are related to each other because obviously people aren't just going to do one thing. They usually want to get education about, the various different aspects of marketing and PR and content creation and all that stuff.
All the things.
All the things, exactly. So I always get a confusion from people around PR, like, what is it? I've talked about it on the podcast several times. And what does it include? What does it not include? Is it social media? Is it digital marketing? Like what is all the explanation? So I think today I'd love to talk about what are the various components of digital marketing, how one big thing, like we definitely got affected by the pandemic. And so I would love to know a little bit more about how your industry got affected by the pandemic and what people need to know about that. And then any secret tips or hacks that you might have as well. Does that work?
Yeah, sounds great.
Cool. So first, what all is included in your world of digital marketing? Because everyone kind of has a different definition.
Yes, that's what I was going to say is, digital marketing is huge. I would put PR absolutely. I would put digital PR, right? There's digital component to PR
right,
that you can absolutely include under digital marketing. It's digital marketing is huge. For us specifically, we focus on digital advertising. So ads that you see across the web, from paid search to those fun banners you see as you roam about. Mm-hmm. And then SEO. So if you're on Google and you type in a keyword, then the top results are the paid results. And then everything below that's organic. And there's a whole art and science that goes into having brands rank properly in organic search. So we specialize in that as well. And then you have to have analytics to tie all this together to know if any of it's working.
Right.
So those are our three areas of expertise in terms of SEO, digital advertising, and analytics.
Okay, cool. And I might be like writing down questions as we go because I don't want to interrupt you. So
sounds great.
Okay, cool. So can you, goodness, where should we start? Where do you think we should start? How should people start?
You should definitely start with your analytics to make sure that you're measuring things before you start spending any money.
Yeah.
But if you're talking about specifically in the pandemic and what's happened there, we could definitely talk about trends and what we saw versus our clients.
Yeah, I think actually that's a great place to start. Let's start there. Let's talk about trends. I know in PR, like we saw a huge shift to digital content marketing. We saw a lot of, sad news about a lot of different news departments and newsrooms having people laid off. So we're losing a lot of journalists that are becoming freelancers. And so we had to kind of shift our mindset to a lot of like thought leadership. And we still did the regular pitching and stuff like that. You still need other media content, but I think a lot of it has gone to content, like kind of content marketing style stuff. So what are you seeing in digital marketing, and like I feel like, obviously everything went online. So like how did that get affected? Did you guys have any people that like got to really, take advantage of that? And then what can you not take advantage of, I guess, is the other question.
Yeah. So it really depends on the industry, right?
Yeah.
So obviously travel has been struggling and probably will struggle a bit longer, where e-commerce has just exploded, right?
Mhm.
Where we sit is in B2B and in tech primarily. And so for us in our specific industries, we saw an initial sort of like, oh no, we don't know what's going to happen, stop everything or slow everything way down, like pulled all of our media spend back, everything. And then the dust sort of settled. All of our clients were told to go work remotely, which they've never done before. So they had to go figure that out, on top of where they were trying to figure out where the markets were going and what was going to happen with all of their products. And then they got comfortable and they said, okay, let's turn everything back on to where we were. And then all of a sudden it was just like this upshoot of
like, hurry, let's catch up.
More, here's more money. How do we get to that first page? We have all these keywords we want to go after. There's this thing happening over here. There's this thing and all of a sudden it was just like, go at the speed of light as quickly as possible all across everything right now.
I feel like a lot of people were like trying to make up for lost time.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. On top of the fact that conferences imploded, right? And so everything got taken online from a conference standpoint, or anything that was happening in person. Think about the sales teams who were whining and dining in their clients and taking them out. I just had right before the pandemic hit, my dad's fiance is in sales for event marketing, and so she had just been to she just took her clients to go see Hamilton, right? So all these things that are happening in person and creating these personal connections and gone overnight. And so people are trying to figure out what can we do what do we do now? Essentially,
they can have a Netflix Hamilton viewing party.
I would join. That would be amazing. Right. So there are things that people are doing. We've seen some of our clients from the sales side actually like send their potential clients $200 bottles of whiskey and then having like a bartender join virtually and talking them through
to do like some kind of
right. Like so there's cool. Definitely ways that people are getting very creative in finding that from a digital marketing standpoint, webinars and online events, right? How to brand those essentially with the right audience and the right marketing and messaging is where our clients have gone to. Webinars especially have really taken off for some of our clients, especially clients who have these giant email lists, right? They can spin up all of these courses and then invite all of these people. It's been amazing for them. And then we support them in terms of driving new people into their webinars and into their systems. So
and how challenging is that? Like, has it become really expensive, or not necessarily, because, everyone has their own niche. So like, it's also, those things are expensive based on like how competitive it is in your market, right?
Yeah, I think it really depends on what you're trying to sell to, like what the webinar is about. Is it really high level, right? If it's really broad messaging, just trying to like create that brand awareness, then it's going to be way less expensive than if you're trying to get like a demo, right?
Right.
If you're trying to do a demo webinar specifically about your product, then you're going to pay a way higher cost per lead for that than if you're doing something, way more brand awareness focused.
Have you noticed that there are a lot more free events versus paid?
Oh my gosh. At least for us. Yeah. I mean, I don't know so much for my clients. I think there's definitely some more, I think the tech space is still a lot of paid events, but I attended more events last year.
I know. That's like one of the things I think I wrote about or talked about on the podcast was just talking about like get education right now while it's free because
Yeah.
everyone's doing it.
Everyone. I mean, everything's online now and everybody's
Yeah.
giving away their secret sauce. And I would say even podcasting, like
Yeah.
podcasting's exploded. I mean, I think that's where Clubhouse sort of like came out of nowhere, right? Was sort of
Sure.
this need now of how do we connect and find ways to get information out there.
Yeah.
Really cool,
No,
unique
Clubhouse
ways.
is a whole nother
Oh, yeah.
conversation.
I know. We're not going to go there today. I'm just letting people know what's there and they can go check it out for themselves.
Yes.
Um,
But yeah. So I guess I just like, I wonder like I mean, like you said, it really depends on the niche, what people are trying to do. But as far as competitiveness and what people like, let's say we're talking a lot to what small marketers of startups, marketers of small businesses, entrepreneurs, CEOs, like, how can they strategically kind of position themselves to not be lost in the digital marketing fluff? Like, because there's so many people, like you said, they like rushed over to digital marketing, realizing like virtual and digital is like the way to get to their audience. What are maybe some like, I guess, tips or tricks or hacks or something, I don't know, something to stand out? Like, how should people be standing out and how can they use digital marketing to do that right now?
It's all about value, right?
Okay.
It's all about the value you can bring. I mean, I started a podcast not because I want to be the next Joe Rogan by any stretch of the imagination. I started it because I had my clients asking what more they could be doing. And I was like, outside of what we do, my team is constantly bringing new ideas, but
Right.
outside of that, where can I bring more value to my clients? I was like, I'll go start a podcast and go have great conversations with people about what's working for them and then bring those ideas. And the way that I did it, which I'm seeing more and more of, which I think makes a lot of sense, is it's having almost your own clientele on your podcast. So
Right.
my podcast is geared towards tech marketing leaders. So CMOs, VPs, marketing managers who all work in tech. And I'm having them on my podcast. So those who are listening are all those people. And then those who are on are all those people so that they can hear from each other. Like, what are, marketing managers doing that's working really well that the other companies can hear from? And what challenges are they having? And they sort of can hear from each other of like, okay, I'm not alone. And so that was sort of my strategy and what I've seen a lot of other companies do in terms of building their newsletters, subscribers, in terms of getting in front of the right audience, in terms of hearing about all of their current clients' challenges, and so on and so forth. So podcasting is definitely a very quick and easy way to create a lot of value for your clients. I'm not going to say it's not a ton of work, because as you know, Ranjini, it is. But I think it's incredibly valuable to your clients, and it can be really cost effective if you do it yourself initially, not trying to, bring on a agency to
a whole team of people,
all that jazz, right? Just
no, that's so fun. Yeah, this podcast, I started it like right before the pandemic, actually.
Yeah.
And I was gonna do it anyway, and I was like, yeah, I'm gonna do this podcast thing, and I had to have an accountability partner because it took so much energy to keep going when nothing was happening, and then when I finally got to certain milestones and it paid off, but you have to actually get to those milestones for it to pay off.
Yeah, you do.
So,
it's really hard. I would say if you don't want to go that route where you actually host the podcast, the other route is to go be a guest on one. Totally. So there's great companies out there. I work with a company called Interview Connections. And they actually hooked us up, which was awesome.
Yep. Yeah.
And so they actually go and place guests as well. You can do it on your own. They're doing a whole masterclass right now for free. So if you hit up Interview Connections, they'll actually walk you through their entire process and you can go do it yourself. Not going to say that's not initially a lot of work to get that going either, but it's just two different types of energy. So
yeah. Well, and I mean, that's the whole thing about any of these things, right? Like the reason I started a podcast was we deal with and we work with a lot of startups who think they're ready for PR, but they aren't quite ready. And so there's some things that they could do before, right? There's building blocks that you can know. And then what I realized as we were doing the podcast is like, people just don't know what certain things are. And so, we're in the marketing PR area. So we know all these things. Like it's obvious to me. And sometimes when I'm talking to my clients, they're like, well, what is that? And I'm like, oh, it's not that obvious, I guess.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. And
explaining it to them.
I would say this all comes down to value and content, right? So
Yeah.
what are you, it's like you've been saying, Ranjini, in terms of where everything shifted from a PR standpoint in terms of content, same with us, like,
Yeah.
especially from an SEO standpoint, it's like, how can we create thoughtful, relevant, consistent content on a regular basis? And so we've had clients where we've made suggestions around huge, like hubs, like, okay, if you want to go after a specific keyword, then think about how to create awareness around that, where if somebody was to type it in, then you're going to show up number one and they're going to be able to go literally learn everything they want to know about that. So for one client, they wanted to go after the word agile.
Okay.
And it was right when agile was becoming a thing. So if you're not familiar with agile, it's a way of working that instead of waterfall planning where like this thing happens and this thing, then this thing, then this thing, it's okay, all these things need to happen. And do they need to happen in any order, or can people just pick them up as you go? And then there's a whole framework around that, how that works, right? And so they wanted to own this word. And the best way to do that was we did their name of their website /agile, and you went to this hub and it literally broke it all down for you. And then they ranked number one.
Right.
And so, there's lots of different strategies you could sort of take around content that could be really meaningful and powerful, but it comes down to the value. And at the end of the day, what you're doing is it going to be meaningful? And is this what people are really searching for? And is this what they care about? And a lot of times we'll have clients be so sure that people are searching for a certain keyword.
And you're like, why would they know that keyword? Like,
you've invented this keyword, so that's cool. And we could certainly work people towards using it.
Yeah.
But what are they searching for right now? And what do we do right now? And then work that keyword in so that you can sort of create this entirely new industry or subset industry based off of this product you're trying to sell and this keyword you want to go after.
I think, it took me a while to like really understand keywords as well. And like understand that whole concept of what are they searching? And like, what are they like, just saying, what are they Googling to find you? And I think if you really just think about that for like 2 minutes, you're like, wait a minute. Okay. They're not Googling, like you said, the keyword that I created in my mind. They're Googling, how to create a pancake from scratch, not pancake batter recipes,
right.
Or whatever. I'm just making something.
Yeah. But or your product name, right? Like,
right. They're not
yet.
your product name. Exactly.
I don't know about you yet. So yeah.
No, that's really important. Okay. So I have a couple of questions. So one, I'm going to actually ask you about Facebook and just like, the relevancy of Facebook and like how important it would be in the digital marketing mix. I know I've heard a lot of interesting things around Facebooks and creating groups and conversations and nurturing your community on Facebook. Like how important today do you feel that Facebook is now for like, I guess, more business communications and business conversations? Because I'm hearing that, that is important.
It is. Yeah. It's so funny whenever we bring Facebook to a new tech B2B client, they're like, really?
Yeah.
And we're like, yeah, really, because it doesn't matter anymore. It used to matter a great deal when digital marketing first became a thing. It really mattered where your audience was and what they were looking at. So if you were a tech client trying to promote a specific new product, you'd want to be on Wired next to, the latest and greatest thing that they were talking about in relation. So if you're talking about headphones, you would want to be around, the latest boombox and the latest whatever, right? You'd want to be relevant to that content. Well, there's been this great shift thanks to technology where you were basically guessing back then. You didn't have any audience data. You just knew that, well, you're trying to sell these headphones. So chances are our audience will see
they're going to be over here somewhere. Yeah.
And that seems like a really great place to be.
Yeah.
Where now, because of cookies and the way that tech works and the way that Facebook specifically works in the sense that they know your age, they know what things you like and dislike, they know what ads you've already clicked on, they know
where you live.
Whether you have kids, they
Yeah,
know
yeah.
what they have a profile of you beyond just the way you move about the web,
Uh-huh.
or just making this guess that based off of this kind of content, this is where our audience is, right?
Yeah.
So Facebook is incredibly powerful because you can get in front of the exact right people, knowing that you could even do it off of email addresses. So if you
Yeah.
have a list of email addresses, you can plug that into Facebook and say, go find people similar. So it won't market to that email list necessarily. It'll just go find people who have similar profiles to those people and go build you a new list. And then you'll market to those new people who are very close to the people you already have.
Yeah.
And then you layer that in with the right messaging. And nowadays you can actually do it where instead of driving to your website, which is a click,
Mm-hmm.
and then messaging and then asking them to click on something else to then go to a form where they have to fill it in and
Oh
then
my
click
God.
again.
Sounds painful.
Oof, you can actually just will click on the ad and a form will pop up.
Oh
And
yeah,
they'll fill
Facebook
in their
has the form.
information.
Yeah.
Yep.
Real easy.
They'll fill in their information and they'll go directly into your email system, and then you can send them whatever it is they signed up for. So again, it comes back to that value, right? You have to have something on the other end that they want.
Right.
You can't just be like, come sign up for my newsletter. It's, we're running a campaign for a tech client where webinars is a great example of that, or a white paper where, if they've been nominated for something, they'll write a whole white paper around it and why they are successful, or what the case study was that got them there. They'll give away a secret sauce, something that they do that nobody else can do, and how they do it. And then
we're seeing a lot of that, right? Like on digital, I feel like digital marketing is doing a lot of that.
Yeah. Well, consumers are so smart now. So, right?
Yes.
Right? They're not calling up salespeople anymore to figure out what the next thing is that they want to buy. They are research gurus, and they can smell the BS from a mile away.
Yeah,
so
for sure.
The way to get people's attention now is to give them something they need.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. So like when we're talking about Facebook a little bit and how people are researching and doing things. So if I'm an entrepreneur, I'm a small business owner, I'm a tech founder, whatever. Okay, I'm taking your advice, getting on Facebook, right? And I'm marketing on Facebook using these like really nice, acute, like different data points that they have to market. How long, and this is kind of a conversation I've had with people, so I'm asking you, how long does it take before you can expect some kind of movement? And obviously a lot of this has to do with your budget and how much you're willing to spend, but like I am not a patient person. How patient do you have to be?
It really, I hate to say it again in the whole, it depends realm of things, but just to give you two totally different examples, right? If you're in tech and B2B and you're doing a webinar, it's probably going to take a bit of time, right? It's probably going to take a few days, maybe even a week to finally feel real results from that and get that cost per lead down. You're going to have to work at figuring out what's the right messaging, what's the right image, what's the right, why am I getting people to care? That might take a little bit more time than something like, if you're a coach for consumers and you're just trying to help them get their weight down.
Okay.
Right? Here's a really great white paper on how to have a better relationship with food, or how to get back onto your resolutions, right? You'll see results from that pretty instantly.
Okay.
So
when you say instant, you mean like within a day, 2 days?
Within 24 to 48 hours. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. If you find that right value fit for the right audience. Yep.
So it sounds like the devil is like all in the research. Like you really, it's obviously the content is very important, but you also really have to identify the target audience like as closely as you can.
Yeah. If you already have a newsletter list, that's the best thing to use. or any list. Like if you just have been collecting people's names over the course of however long, and now you just have this nice list of a few thousand names, like that's a great place to start.
Right. And it's
then
called a look. It's like, that's the lookalike audience,
lookalike.
right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. Lookalike is the best place to start.
And so you could just upload that right into your Facebook ads, your Facebook ad.
And you do have to keep in mind there's going to be some sort of delta between, if you have a lot of business email addresses, you might not find those in Facebook.
Right.
Right. But if you have a lot of personal email addresses, you're going to find that pretty quickly.
That's actually a good point. That's actually a good point.
Yeah. If you have a very specific list of people that you want to go after, so we have some clients who say, oh, I have this newsletter list, but I want to work them through. Right. Because for B2B, it could take up to 16 touches before they even call you for a demo.
Sure.
So in that case, you might want to if you're B2B, you might want to and you have business email addresses, you might want to head over to LinkedIn.
Yeah.
To do some remarketing that way is a great way. I also believe LinkedIn has remarketing, or lookalikes as well. So that's another really great place.
So their lookalikes would be a little bit different, because if you have their business email, their LinkedIn might be associated with their business email, as opposed to Facebook, which is typically the personal email.
Right. Correct.
Gotcha. Which doesn't mean you can't target these audiences. I mean, you just have to craft your a specialized target audience if you don't have a lookalike list.
Right. So if you don't have the lookalike list, that's totally fine. If you go into Facebook, you can check off geography, demographic, age range, male or female. I mean, you can look at what page, like if you have competitor pages, that you want to sort of, what else do they like sort of thing.
Just listening to this list of things, like, reminds me, it's kind of like, everybody who's listening, it's kind of like a rabbit hole because you get in there, and especially if you're not super familiar or hyper target. I mean, that's why you end up hiring someone, because it's like you go in there and you're like, oh, you could do this. And I will sit in there for like at least 2 hours, just like getting my audience just perfect. And then going to work on the creative to be like, okay, this audience is this. Now I have to make the ideal. If for people who think it doesn't take time, I think you as a digital marketer obviously can hone in a lot quicker, but it still takes time. I think that's the misnomer. Digital marketing is digital, so it's fast. It's not true.
You just have to plan, right? So it's like you're saying in terms of research. I mean, you should already know who your audience is. If you're a business owner and you're trying to do this, you should have been in enough sales meetings by now that you know all the questions that clients are constantly asking. Go make a white paper about it.
Right.
And then that's your give right there. And then, spin up a few ads that's you looking at a specific audience. Don't go crazy. Don't start trying to spend thousands of dollars. Figure out.
What do you think is a good starting budget to just kind of see how things are working out? If let's say you're a B2B tech company, right? We have a company that
it's so competitive. It's so competitive in B2B tech that you're going to have to spend a few $1,000s a week, maybe.
What about like a consumer product?
Consumer products, you can spend anywhere from, $10 to $50 a day and start to see results.
And then what about like what we do, professional services?
Yeah, professional services probably the hardest thing to crack in terms of marketing, period. And like in general.
Well, because there's so many options. I think that's a thing. It's like you really have to know. You have to know what, like you said, what questions they're going to ask, because they don't even know they may not know they need you.
They may not know they need you. I think for services, like especially like ours, it's just such a personal. It's so personal. Like, do I like you? Do I want to work with you? Could I get along with you? Like that matters in service line industries.
Definitely.
And to go find that isn't something you're necessarily going to find online. I mean, the best thing we can do that we found for us is referrals, obviously. LinkedIn, just going and making friends. Yeah. And then for, once you do sort of if you have a list of people, you'd really like to work with, then just going after those specific groups, right? So like the beauty of LinkedIn is if I know I want to go after these companies, I can just go target the
Yeah.
marketing in these companies. But again, it's just got to be, it comes down to value, and it comes down to consistency and frequency, and I think that's true for any industry, quite honestly.
Mm-hmm.
Like the more you can surround your audience with thoughtful content and not necessarily have to gate it all. And what I mean by gate is have a form in front of everything that people have to fill in.
Yeah. Yeah.
The more they're just going to build trust with you.
Yeah.
So they know where your website is. They know where your contact form is. So, let them sort of come, surround them with all this useful information and content, and try and be as many places as you can. And then sort of let them come to you when they're ready.
Yeah.
Is sort of the approach that we've seen work, not just for us, but even for some of our tech clients. There's something called ABM, which is account-based marketing, which is basically where you make a list of accounts that you really want to work with, and then you just go surround them in all of these really thoughtful ways. And when they're ready, they'll look up and go, "Oh yeah,
there they are.
I need that now."
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's a great way. I have one more question, but I didn't write it down properly. Oh my goodness. It was something about email marketing and the importance of email marketing. And do you guys do that in the digital marketing space? Is that something that you guys do? I don't think it actually had anything to do with email marketing, but
It's not something we do.
okay.
We technically, like, our company doesn't do email marketing, but the importance of it is huge.
Yeah.
Especially if you're going to put money into digital advertising, where you're going to be driving people through a specific funnel of a user experience and giving them something, especially if you're going to do a give, you have to follow that up with an email to say, here it is.
Yeah.
Even if you have it on the website for them to download, you still want to follow up with an email to give it to them or to remind them it's there. And then a few days later, follow up again and see how it went. And a few days later, let them know like what other offers you have, and nurture them. Email marketing, newsletters, like
Huge. Yeah. Digital marketing is like the starting point, right?
yeah, I mean, if you don't really have a good email sort of flow,
Mhm.
then anything you do on top of that is sort of wasted.
Oh, I think the question was like, how important is a strong email list? Like, we work in crowdfunding, and we started working in crowdfunding a long time ago. And like, the number one rule of crowdfunding is that your email list has to be amazing. To have any successful crowdfunding campaign. Number one, hands down, email list. So I guess that was my question, was how important is the email list in the digital marketing space? And, and like you're saying, obviously email marketing is extremely
Yeah, I mean,
important.
it's the center. Like you
Yeah.
have to have, we call it the source of truth. So
Yeah.
whenever we work with clients, we always want to somehow sync up to their CRM system so that we can know exactly how many leads we drove, at what cost, and then how far do they make it down the funnel. So we
Yeah.
talk about pipeline create. Like whenever you get a new lead, if you can assign a value to them, especially if you did like a demo or you got on the phone with them and you sort of understand what their budget is, the minute you assign them a value, that's pipeline create, and you can know what the effect your ads had in making that happen. So
Yeah.
it's very important to have a strong, it doesn't necessarily need to be huge. It depends on what you're trying to sell, right? Like if you're
Right.
trying to sell a very pricey product, you don't need a huge email list versus if you're doing something like e-commerce. It really depends on, on your industry that way.
Yeah, I think it's interesting because I mean, some of the companies that I work with that are startups that are they're so focused on developing the product, which totally makes sense, right? Making sure the product is right, that they forget like to create I mean, some startups I talk to don't even have a CRM. They don't have an email list, but they are talking to potential customers. So that when I hear that, I'm like, dude, you need something as
Where are
soon
you
as
getting them?
possible. Yeah, capture these people. Like what, like, you're gonna forget. Like we can't remember everything. You're gonna forget the email. So I think I like to bring up the importance of emails because of that. It's like creating that CRM or creating that pipeline is like super important, just especially from the very beginning. If you could do it right from the beginning, It's
Yeah,
easy
and
to-
there's so many tools out there where like even if you got to start with MailChimp, like
yeah,
just have it somewhere where you're able to take somebody from your website and capture them into an email list. And then
yeah.
if you can do like a newsletter to just constantly remind them you're there, then great. It doesn't have to be this whole giant user flow.
Yeah.
Start simple.
Well, that actually leads me to another good question. So what are your some of your, let's say like the 3 tools you can't live without?
Um, oh,
You're all
I
just
mean,
3.
3. Well, Google Analytics.
Okay.
I'm in there every day. How are
Yes.
we doing? What's happening? Who's on our website? What are they doing? I can't live without Google Analytics.
So if your website is not hooked up to Google Analytics, do it now. Do it now.
At the bare minimum, yes to
Yes.
that. We use Active Campaign for our email lists.
I like that. Yeah.
I really like Active Campaign. I like it from it's so easy to set up email campaigns. Oh my goodness. We were using Infusionsoft before, and that was one, it was way too big for what we needed. And 2, it was not user friendly. It was really hard to work with. So now that we've moved to Active Campaign, we're actually using it a lot more and not doing anything crazy. We just have a few newsletters going out. We have a few nurture flows just so people come from certain things, but it's not crazy. And then my business partner uses it from a sales perspective. So
Sure.
every time a deal starts, even if it doesn't have a cost next to it, he immediately puts it in Active Campaign and we can actually see the deal flow. So how much money is in pipeline create versus how much is in closing versus how much is closed is so helpful. So
Okay.
I absolutely adore
Active Campaign.
Active Campaign right now. Yeah. And my third one I would have to say is Anchor. So we use it for our podcast where we publish it through Anchor, and then Anchor publishes it to 8 different platforms. So instead of having to go to Apple or go to Spotify or go to Pocket or go to wherever, we can just do it through Anchor. And then we got some analytics coming in through there because I can't help but look at all the analytics.
Yes. Try not to, but yes.
I know it's so hard. It's so hard. So I would say right now for where I am, those are my 3 most important tools.
Okay. Well, that's good because I think everybody likes to hear what other people are using. So that's awesome. So before we close up today, just maybe it's just one thing. Like if you could tell somebody one thing to do to optimize their potential of doing digital marketing or anything, like what one thing do you think could like change people's perception or just like get them on the right path for digital marketing stuff? Or it could be a couple of things. It doesn't have to be one thing. Sometimes
I think it's just like it's if you think about a pyramid, right? So at the very bottom, you need your email marketing, which is obviously hooked up to, you need your website.
Yeah.
You need a website. Then you can hook that up to email marketing. And then you need to make sure you have analytics that flows through your website and your email marketing, and it's measuring all the activity from all your people. And once those 3 things are in tight alignment, then you can start layering in some thoughtful digital marketing.
Okay.
I mean, SEO is something you can start from day 1 with your website and just making sure you have some of the foundational elements in place. You want your title tags, which is basically the title of each page, just thinking about, what people are searching for and why this page matters, right? To the meta description, which is when you go to Google and you type in, a keyword, you get the title at the top, and then you get a little description underneath that. That's like your clickbait right there. You want that to really be meaningful so that that's where they learn more about why they should come to this link.
Mm-hmm.
And so if you can get some of those foundational elements from your website in place, you layer in that email marketing, you get the analytics all tied up with a bow, then you can start to like dabble with some LinkedIn, with some Facebook, some paid search, and figure out sort of what channel is going to work for you. Don't try them all at once. Pick one.
It's a lot. Yeah, it's a lot.
It's a lot. Pick one. Pick the one that feels like where your audience is probably going to resonate the most. Paid search is always the easiest low-hanging fruit.
Okay.
in terms of, figuring out what people are searching for when they come to your website and, getting into those top results. So that's definitely an easy layer.
Cool. That sounds like that. I mean, yeah, I think that's a good starting point. And then when do you so I guess if you have all those three pieces, when do you guys come in? What is your perfect client? Who are you looking for?
So we work with B2B tech companies and healthcare. And it's people it's companies who are sort of at that growth stage. So they've made it through the startup stage. They have their audience, they have their direction, they know who they are. They're starting to feel that flywheel go and that momentum starting to take off. And now they just need to grow. So that's where our sort of sweet spot is, which is anywhere from, they're starting to make anywhere from 5 to 10 million a year.
Okay, cool. That's good to know. That's a good spot to go. Okay. And then I have all this information in the show notes, but where can people find you? And obviously the name of your podcast is MKG Marketing. Is it?
We just rebranded.
Oh, okay.
No, I just totally rebranded. So now we are Tea Time with Tech Marketing Leaders podcast. You can find us anywhere. Like I said, we use Anchor. So we're on Spotify, Apple. You can go to our website, mkg.marketing. Check us out there. So we're LinkedIn. I am a big proponent of LinkedIn. You can come find me there, connect with me. Let's chat. Let's see what's going on. Yeah.
Okay, perfect. So we'll have her links all up in the show notes so you guys can find her. Thanks, Kerry, for spending time with me today. And thanks for all the tips that you've given me and everybody else.
Thank you, Reggie. So good to meet you.
All right. Thanks. Bye.